Welcome to Lesson 3 of Music Notation Basics. Lesson 1, we covered the introduction to the staff, and you learned a lot about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and its placement on the staff lines and spaces. You also learned about steps, skips, and leaps, and learned a little bit how to practice building your retention for what letter is where on the staff based on dividing and conquering, using the concept of target notes, memorizing where the target notes are, and then filling in the spaces between and lines between the target notes. Lesson 2, we covered rhythm, which was really a cursory overview of different rhythmic notation, not just the notes, but also time signatures like 4/4, a little bit of 2/4, 3/4, 5/4 at the end, and also rests and what types of rhythms get what type of rests. Rhythm is a huge topic that is easier to address when we start looking at music, and notes and note names are easier to address when we really start looking at actual music. So this is going to be a shorter lesson today, but an important one because it's our first lesson looking at actual music. One of the best ways to really begin studying and looking at music is to start with songs. And by a song, I mean a composition, a musical composition that also includes lyrics. The nice thing about lyrics is there's already a rhythm built into anything that we say. So we're going to look at some really basic children's songs and then move in from there into some folk pieces, pop songs, and also one popular jazz piece at the end. Keep in mind that even though this stems from a jazz class, music notation transcends any particular style. And I think it's important to understand that even if you're studying jazz, you can get your bearings in a lot of musical fundamentals that then cross over into every single genre. And you'll really notice the more that you study music that genres are easily crossed if you understand the basics of music. So to start off with, we're going to look at a couple pieces that hopefully everyone knows. And I like picking tunes that are super, super familiar because you can already hear them even when you just look at the lyrics, and that can be helpful at first. So the first one we're going to look at is Mary Had a Little Lamb. And of course we all know how that goes. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow. Now I'm just picking any old starting note, whatever my voice wants. I have a totally untrained singing voice. And like I always say, if I can sing it, you can sing it too. But you can already tell as I'm singing the song that there are phrases to the song, and they kind of are phrased according to each line. So we've got phrase 1, and then phrase 2, and then phrase 3, and finally phrase 4. And musically, that's how the music unfolds too. Let's look at the music down here. This is Mary Had that's supposed to be an arrow. This is Mary Had a Little Lamb, the music and the lyrics. So right off the bat, I want you to notice a couple things. We've got a staff here, 2 staff systems, and the treble clef is deciding that this note right here on the middle line is going to be the letter B. Because as we already know from lesson 1, letter B is always on the middle line if we're dealing with the treble clef, which we will be dealing with for the rest of this entire class. Every lesson moving forward. Also, you should notice right away the 4/4, and remember that means that there are 4 quarter notes. So the 4 on the top tells you how many, 4, and the 4 on the bottom tells you what type or what kind. And so it's 4 quarter notes. And you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4. Now remember, I said there are a lot of numbers in music, we got the 1, 2, 3, 4, which is referring to the beats, and then we've also got phrases 1, 2, 3, 4. So, and there are far more numbers than that too. So we'll try to keep track of what numbers are what. But anyway, let me clear that for a second. And excuse my cough. We're going to continue looking at Mary Had a Little Lamb now in terms of these beats. If we just sang the song and followed along, we first would have to get that B. So I'm going to play the B right here on the piano. And, it's actually pretty close to where I was singing it. And we have Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow. And each of these sets of notes are now grouped in phrases. So here's phrase 1, and then phrase 2. I like boxing them like this because then they just start looking like their own little compositions. Phrase 3 is interesting because it doesn't use up both measures. It uses up 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's the syllables of the song. But then this last beat here, beat 4, is the start of phrase 4. Its fleece was white as snow, and that's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I say 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm referring to the beats going by. Da, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go back now and look at the pitches. We got B to start off with, and then A, G, A, B, B, B. If we sing just that much again, Mary had a little lamb, and then play it without singing it. Just playing it without singing it. That's it. We think about that in terms of rhythm. You see the steady quarter notes every time, and then at the very end we have a half note. How would you count this second measure? You'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice this half note gets both beats 3, 4. And you might say, well, wait a second. When I first learned half notes, the very first half note I saw, I counted 1, 2. Why don't I just count 1, 2 here? And the reason why is because it comes on the second half of the measure. And if it comes at the end of the measure there, then it's getting 3, 4, not 1, 2. And that's this rhythm of bum, bum, bum becomes thematic in Mary Had a Little Lamb, because when you get to phrase 2, little lamb, little lamb, it's the same rhythm again. Bum, 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 bum. At the very end, right here, we have a whole note. And very often songs end with a long note. Very often phrases end with long notes too. And if we look at each phrase, we have phrase 1, phrase 2, and phrase 4. All of these phrases I just mentioned end with long notes. So there's the long note on phrase 1, the long note on phrase 2, and the long note on phrase 4 we've already seen. The only one that doesn't end with a long note is phrase 3. Let's erase all of this now. And let's hear the song once. This time I won't sing it, I'll just play it. Done. So take some time to learn that, study it, get to know each pitch. As you work on music, try not to just memorize the music. You should really try to stay active, making sure you can know by sight what each pitch is. It takes a lot of practice, so just because you do it once doesn't mean that you're going to be finished. I'm adding these lines to delineate the very end of each phrase. Oh, one thing you should notice is at the end of every song, you're going to see what's called a double bar line. And that's what it looks like. And that means the tune has ended. Or the example has ended. So let's move on. The next one is Old MacDonald, and if we come back up to the top here, we're going to see Old MacDonald lyrics. I think we all know how this one goes. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm he had a pig, E-I-E-I-O. And of course it could go on with an oink oink here and an oink oink there. Here an oink, there an oink, everywhere an oink oink, and then we do it again. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, etc. But for notational purposes, we'll just look at the first little bit. So here again we have the lyrics, and they're paired up with notes. And right away we want to notice, hey, this very first note is one higher than B. B was the start of Mary Had a Little Lamb. And the start of Old MacDonald is one higher. And that's the C. Notice when I sing it somewhere down here. Old MacDonald had a farm. Because when I opened my mouth, that's where it came out. But if I want to match with the piano now, the piano note, C is here. And it's going to be Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had a pig, E-I-E-I-O. Right away you should notice a few things. First of all, that the phrases again match the lyrics. So phrase 1 starts on beat 1 here. Phrase 2 starts on the third measure on beat 1. Phrase 3 starts with a pickup note, this note here, because it starts on beat 4. It's called a pickup note. And on that farm, he noticed the emphasis on and on. That's beat 1. And beat 1, as you know from the second lesson on rhythm, tends to be emphasized a bit. And on that farm, he had, again, had is emphasized, and it's on beat 1. Had a pig, E-I-E-I-O, and notice E-I-E-I-O. The E's at the beginning are emphasized too. Phrase 4 starts on beat 1 again. E-I-E-I-O, and there's beat 1 with O emphasized. So the phrases match the lines again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yikes. That's some mouse writing there. Not great. That's okay. What else? You can see already the long notes that end actually every phrase this time. Here they are. Take some time to look at what these long notes are, too. There are patterns in music, tons and tons of patterns, and the more you look for patterns, I think the more fun it is. This is a G, this is a C, and then this is a G, and this is a C. You should also notice that the words change. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and then the third line is, and on that farm he had a pig, but the melody stays the same. So you've got Old MacDonald had a farm for phrase 1, and then phrase 3 is, and on that farm he had a pig, and if you look at those notes, C, 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 G, A, A, G are the notes. You could go slowly through that. Slow is always good. Slowly but surely. C, 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 G, A, G. Alright? And then down here, C, 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 G, A, G. E-I-E-I-O is also the same. E-I-E-I-O, and then E-I-E-I-O. Well, I should say it's mostly the same. I mean, if you look very closely, those of you who are very aware have probably already noticed. Look at O there, and then look at O in phrase 4. So if you compare phrase 2 and phrase 4, what's the difference? Of course, phrase 4 is a dotted half note, and a dotted half note, remember, gets 3 counts. So 1, 2, 3. And a half note only gets 2 counts. 1, 2. In this phrase, too, the way this was written was a half note followed by a rest. So, we have a rest here. This is getting ugly. Put the rest in parentheses. The number in parentheses. If we have a rest here, why? Why not just make this a dotted half note? And the answer is because we need to breathe. Here's a little symbol for breathing. It's like an apostrophe. We need to breathe right there. So, old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, breath, and on that farm he had a pig, E-I-E-I-O. Now at the very end, there's a rest also, just to finish out the measure, because if we're ending the tune 1, 2, 3, notationally that's incomplete because each measure needs to have 4 beats. So at the very end we put in a rest. Okay, I think that's enough for Old MacDonald. Let's move on and try one more children's song. This is Hot Cross Buns. And I shouldn't just call these children's songs. These are timeless, very, very enduring melodies for a reason. They're just exceedingly durable and memorable. So once you learn these melodies, they just stick with you forever. A lot of it just has to do with the strength of the patterns in the melodies. Just like Old MacDonald has that da-da-da-ya, da-da-da repeated a lot. This one has another rhythm. Dee-dee-dum, dee-dee-dum, dum-dum-dum. All right, let me sing Hot Cross Buns. Hot cross buns, 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. So if we look at these lines, we have 4 lines here, and this tune is a little different in that we could think of each line as being its own phrase, and maybe we could hear it like that, but honestly, I hear these phrases as kind of mini phrases. So actually, I think of the first 2 phrases as forming a larger phrase, and the last 2 phrases as forming a larger phrase. So even though this is a theme of bum, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, together it forms one memorable unit of hot cross buns, hot cross buns. Then the next little bit, 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns, is kind of a big final phrase. Now that's subject to interpretation. So if you're hearing this instead as maybe one phrase, then a second phrase, and then a giant third phrase, then fine, no problem. Also, you might be hearing it as one phrase, one phrase, one phrase, and then one phrase. So a lot of this depends on how your ear interprets the song. That's very good to recognize that a lot of music and analysis is subject to interpretation. But if we start looking at these notes, the first question you should always ask is, okay, what note is that? So let's review. Mary Had a Little Lamb started on B. Old MacDonald started on C. And Hot Cross Buns starts on A. Let's pretend this line up here is the middle line of the staff, okay? And so if we draw a note on it, that's B. That's where Mary Had a Little Lamb started. If we draw a note on top of the line, it's actually on now the third space up. You gotta imagine the other lines here, and this would be C, where Old MacDonald started. So under the line here, this is where Hot Cross Buns has started. And again, if we count through these, like I already mentioned, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's happening for both measures. It's funny, this is the same rhythm that was in Mary Had a Little Lamb, bum, 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 but now the notes are moving down. So we start on A, and we go A, G, F. Hot cross buns, hot cross buns. Now, 1 a penny, 2 a penny. Eighth notes. Great. Got some eighth notes here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and wish I had a smartboard and a stylus. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if you say 1 a penny, 2 a penny, and then say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you'll hear they're pretty close. So 1 a penny, 2 a penny, right? Try it again. 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. There it is. The trick with this tune is to make sure you don't stop at this bar line. So don't go dum bum 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 da 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 da. There is a break there. You don't want a break, so it's got to go hot cross buns, hot cross buns, 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. Again, don't stop here. Another thing that people do is go 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. Or even worse, don't slow down your eighth notes. Don't go hot cross buns, 1 a penny, 2 a penny, stop. Hot cross buns. The main idea is that beat, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, has to remain steady all the time through every tune. So let's move on from the really simple folk tunes into another folk song or traditional song that I think is a little more complicated. It's just a longer tune. So The Water is Wide. You're going to hear a recording of this, actually different recordings of it. If you check out, type into YouTube or go to iTunes or any record store or whatever, you're going to find just a host of different versions of this. I think my favorite is done by Niv Parsons. It looks like Niam Parsons, but I think it's pronounced Niv. And she's just an incredible vocalist, and I love her version of Water is Wide. There are some other really popular ones. Sarah McLachlan sings this, James Taylor. You're going to find a lot of jazz recordings of The Water is Wide too, although they're a little bit harder to find. But it's just a beautiful melody, and the lyrics are really great. So we've got The water is wide, I can't swim over, and neither have I wings to fly. Build me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row, my love and I. Now, if you just say this poem, I want you to notice where the accents are, where the stresses are. The water is wide, I can't swim over. I can't swim over. And neither have I wings to fly. Build me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row, my love and I. Those are the stress points. In music, what's going to happen is that the stress point is very often either on beat 1 or beat 3. This is if you're in 4/4. And the strongest beats tend to be on beat 1, but also beat 3 is a strong beat. That means beat 2 and beat 4 are usually weaker beats, and they don't tend to get as many stress points on them. So if we look at those words we underlined, actually in the tune now, the water, I erased the underlining up there, darn it. See if I can get it back. Oh, it's gone. Okay. The water is wide, I can't swim over. By the way, you might know lyrics like I can't cross over. There are many versions and interpretations of the song. These are the lyrics that Niv Parsons usually sings. I can't swim over, and neither have I wings to fly. build me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row, my love and I. If you go through and you write down the numbers of the beats for this tune, you're going to learn a lot about this song, and you should, on your own time, take your paper and start with number 1, put it in parentheses, number 2 here. You can write smaller and not cover up the lyrics if you want. 3 and 4. Oh, there's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, here would be 1. Take your time with this. Keep going. Okay, so that's supposed to be an arrow. Anyway, you're going to notice right away that basically almost every stressed syllable falls on either 3 or 1. 3 or 1 every time. This tune rests a lot on 1 and then starts on 2 with a stress on 3 and then another stress on 1. In the poem, build might be a stress, but in the song, that is not stressed. I'm going to cross it out because the way that you sing it, build me a boat. There's no stress on build, and really no stress on me or on or a. It goes right to boat. Build me a boat. Right there. Let's hear this tune without the lyrics. 3, 4, rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. 2, 3, 4, rest. 2, 3, 4, rest. 2, 3, 4, rest. 2, 3, 4, off. So I picked a pretty fast tempo. Again, you should try playing this slower at first. Notice that sometimes when I counted, I would start on 2. After I went rest 2, 3, and 4, and then instead of saying 1, I've just played the note on 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. I said that a lot. You should go back and listen to that a few times. It's just one way of counting where you let the note be the placeholder for beat 1 and then fill in the space after with the extra numbers 2, 3, 4, 1 or rest. And sometimes I say rest in place of the number also. Those are practical concerns that really do come up a lot and can help you. Again here I want you to notice that each phrase, and I think this tune is very clearly the phrases are every 2 measures. So here's a phrase, and then there's a phrase, etc. All the way through the tune, and they match pretty much they match the lyrics. But anyway, I want you to notice what note each phrase ends on. Get to know just these notes as the targets. Okay. So you don't just have to learn music left to right. Try to get to break it apart, looking at some of these really, really strong beats and exactly what the notes are, because you'll probably see some patterns. There are a lot of E's, G's, and C's in this tune. This is a G right here. And then this is a G also, but it's a different G. This is a G in the middle of the staff. This is G way up high on the very, very top of the staff. Let's move on to get into some pop and jazz music on page 3. So we'll bring this over here. Now, page 3, we've got My Girl to start off with, the Temptations' great tune. And what's interesting about this tune is that it doesn't start on beat 1. That's similar to The Water is Wide, but while The Water is Wide, you really have a rest, and then 2, 3, and 4, 1. On My Girl, we have just very quickly beat 4, and then an and then 1, 2, 3, 4. How did I know that? Why didn't we notate this as a 1 here, then an and then a 2 here? And then, this is a 3, and we go on and on. And the reason why is because 1 always starts on a measure line. It's right after the measure line. It's the very first thing that shows up after a measure line. So this has to be 1, which means this little guy here is an incomplete measure. It's called a pickup measure. And all you have to do is look at the notes and see how many beats do you need, and work your way back from 1. So because all we have is 2 8th notes, those 2 8th notes, 2 inside 1 beat, are just going to fit in beat 4. So that's all we need, 4 and. That's going to start the tune. I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. Now the thing about the Temptations, or really anyone singing this, is that it's not going to be sung the way that the computer sings it, the way the computer plays back these notes. Dee-da, 3, 4, rest. Do-dee-da, dee-da. You might have here on a cloudy day. You might have on a cloudy day, which is not exactly the same here. That's good news, because ultimately music is interpreted by humans, and that's the way we want to keep it. You can add a lot of expression into it by changing the rhythm just slightly. So for instance, this measure, wow, this is a difficult looking measure. Let's take a closer look. Here we've got, let's try to narrow that. We've got a lot of rests, and then 2 little 16ths. Ouch. This is a half note rest, so that's going to get 1, 2. Then this next rest is a quarter rest, so that's going to get the next number, which is beat 3. And then this rest is an 8th rest. Wow, we got on almost every type of rest we know right here. And that's going to be beat 4. So all that's left is an 8th note, just and that's perfect because we have 2 16ths, which are going to fit within this and, but because we have an extra note, it's going to be and The last 16th is always So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and Again, that's going to be rest, 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 rest. How about? That's all we got. Now, if you connect it to the next measure, cold out. Side, and side is 3, 4. You're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 when it's cold outside. And that's it. Drop my pitch a little bit, but there it is on the piano. Now, excuse me, that is not exactly the way that they sing it. So listen to the recording to get a real, of the actual Temptations singing it. And you'll hear the difference between the way it's printed and then the way that a pop performer might end up performing it. That's a really interesting study. Down here, I guess you'd say. It's interesting because the beat is still here. Boom, 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 bo doo da doo dee dum, bo doo da doo da, boom, bo doo da doo da. That's my bass line, and then all of a sudden, these notes are really slow because they're each 2 beats long, right? I guess you'd say, then quarter notes. What can make me feel this way, my girl? Of course, the tune goes on, so in this case, the bar line here is not to say, all right, we're at the end. It's just to say it's the end of the example. And there's a lot more notation here to explore. The very first thing you should do is try to write out the numbers and see how you do. This is complicated. If you don't get this all at once, no worries. This is a really big jump into a lot of rhythmic notation. So take it bit by bit and at least learn the notes themselves, what the letters are. And if you have a difficulty on some of the rhythms, try to get the ones that you're definite about. For instance, in this measure, this I bet you could do really well. The second half might be harder when it comes to writing in what rhythms go with all of these notes. For instance, we know this is 1 in parentheses. So that's easy. All right, the last one is They Can't Take That Away From Me. There's a version that I love sung by Ella Fitzgerald. This tune is also sung by Frank Sinatra and just a ton of singers, actually, and then a ton of instrumentalists, too. It's a real classic. So, the way you wear your hat, 2, 3, 4, 1. The way you sip your tea, the memory of all that. No, they can't take that away from me. So I'm singing it sort of in a pseudo jazz feel, where the eighth notes end up sounding a little different. They're swung. That means that instead of eighth notes being rest dun 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 dum dum dum, they become rest da do da dum bum bum. 4 1 ba do ba yum, which is a little bit different. We're gonna get into swing, but that's not really the subject of music notation now. That's more of a style issue, so we'll save that for later. But basically here you want to be able to notate this also, so practice going 1, and then here you've got and 2 and 3 4. Wow, and that 3 should be right under that F. And then here we got an easy one. This is just 1 2 3 4. Notice that there are patterns to this song also. So this rhythm, rest da do da dum da dum, rest. It gets repeated right here. Rest da do da yum. One thing that's fascinating about phrases and melodies is that just like the way we speak, ask questions, give answers, have nice conversations that kind of go back and forth like a seesaw, some phrases go up and some phrases go down. Do do da do do dee. That one goes up, and then ba da ba yum. This one also uses a lot of notes all over the staff, which is great. We're in a different key on the piano, so I'll start here on the F. The way you wear your hat, 3 4 1. The way you sip your tea, the memory of all that. No, they can't take that away from me. And again, of course, it's not the end of the song, it's just the end of the example, kind of knocking out the first 8 measures of the tune. That's something that you should go back and take a look at. So many songs are built on even number phrases. What I mean by that is the phrases are either 2 measures or 4 measures, and sections in songs are very often either 4 measures or 8 measures long. And I think you'll see that if you go back and you count some of these. On My Girl, you're not going to count the pickup measure. You're going to start on beat 1 of the first measure, on sunshine, sun being emphasized. And if you look here, you've got measure 1, measure 2, it's another set of numbers here, delineating this pattern, measure 3, measure 4. Now I understand that measure 4 is mostly rests for the melody, but the music underneath is still continuing. There's still a bass line going on, the drummer's still playing, and the singer is resting here. Rests are a really, really important part to melody because it's just like black and white or up and down or any dichotomy, any set of opposites, the rest matters. So we've sung all of this, and now we're resting for the last measure. But 1, 2, 3, 4, that completes the phrase. This is another pickup, so we're not going to deal with it. And again, we have another set of measures, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, resting at the end. And then here, another set of measures, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you listen to the tune, you're going to hear My Girl continue with another set of measures, 1, and then 2 is here. We can't, it's off the page, and then 3. And anyway, we're off the page at that point. We'll be visiting these tunes in different contexts in different lessons. So again, this is just the overview of really your first application of the notes on the staff, rhythms, how they work within actual songs, looking at some lyrics, seeing how notes are emphasized. And that's it for now, okay? I guess this ended up being a pretty long lesson, but that's okay. It's covering really important material, and we'll move on from here. All right, see you soon.